Okay, here we go. We're back at it again. And so we left off last time. I was talking about how I had talked to my wife, and we decided that it was a good idea for me to quit my job and start my own business. So this was back in 2000 or so. Actually, that's when I started my corporation. Thanks to my father-in-law, he gave me a little insight. So anyways, yeah, took the opportunity from the gentleman, which I'll give a little props to right now. His name was John Klopp. Um John did a lot of stuff in Rochester, Minnesota, and he's still a name around here that people know. But if it wasn't for him giving me my first opportunity, would have never happened. So yeah, if you know John, give him props. He's a good guy. So, anyways, yeah. So he gave me my first job, and that kind of rocket just took my career to somewhere that I had no clue. Right, growing up where I did, and coming from where I came from, I never knew that I'd be in the position of owning my own company. I did know that I was not going to be normal. I didn't know which way I was going to go. I mean, obviously, as you grow up, you come up this one road, and you got two ways to go, right? And you go right or you go left. Well, I must have picked the right side because I took it and ran. And so with the hard work and all that, at my peak, I was employing, I don't know, 15 to 17 people at a time, working 6 7 days out of the week. I think the longest stint of work I ever did in painting was, I don't know, like 92 days straight, of anything from 4 hours to 16 hours, and I did everything from remodeling, or not remodeling, but remodel paint jobs to exteriors, new construction. I did industrial for a little while at Kemp's and out at Plainview Milk, which I say thank you because that was something that I thought I would, that was pretty big, and I finished up my painting career in commercial painting, which myself and one, two, three, four, five, six, I think seven different people that worked with me. We took care of a couple of complexes here in town, brand new. We were finishing 100 to 125,000 square feet in about 4 months. That's walls, ceilings, craziness. I got photos and stuff that of all the paint, like box loads of trucks just coming up. And anyways, yeah. um, just thinking about it, they're milestones that I never would have known, and at the peak of my new construction, I was painting four, five, six houses at a time, in different phases of painting, between priming and staining and prepping to final stages of wall paint and then touch ups, so anyways, but going at that rate, right, that was a lot. About halfway through my career of being a painting contractor, this was back in about 2009. Um, I decided to get into real estate. Now, the true story is, back in 2002, 2003, as I'm getting into new construction and meeting all these real estate agents and builders and investors and, business people, and they're all like, most of the realtors like, hey, Greg, real estate's a really good career, and, hey, you should come check it out, right? Well, kind of like in the past, right? I had opportunities that were presented to me, but I just didn't feel like I was ready. And it wasn't necessarily that I didn't think I was ready. It was more the fact of that, I thought that it wasn't right timing, right? I had a painting business that I was working full force on. Business is through the roof, right? This is through the boom of new construction. And I'm like, it's just too fast paced for me right now. If I get into this, I want to learn and I want to learn it right. I was like, all right, well, whatever. So, as a lot of us know, 2008, what happens? Crash, bang, boom, right? And everything, not everything came to a halt. Builders kept building, in Rochester, Minnesota. We're kind of insulated. We still feel some of the economics and some of the same things that the rest of the United States does, but we're just, I don't know, because of Mayo Clinic and because of our environment, a little different. So anyways, time goes on, and 2008, I'm like, okay, well, what am I gonna do, right? Well, I kept doing my painting, and that's the one thing I've always done is I've always, if everything was going right, I was making sure I was looking left as well because opportunity was there one way or another. So we started traveling, doing some other residentials in other cities, but primarily stayed here and about late 2008, I started thinking, I'm like, you know what? The market's slowing down, right? There's a lot of inventory. People are having to work. Let's dive. So I decided to go get my real estate license, right? So 2009 is when I got my real estate license. 2009, I walked in to and talked to some of the real estate agents that had come to me back in 2002, 2003, and said, "Hey, guess what I just did?" They're like, "What?" Like, "I got my real estate license." What? They said, you know, and I was like, they're like, "Well, why did you do that? Man, the market sucks right now." Well, kind of like the rest of the stuff that now I said straight out, I was like, you know what? I'm in a position now that I can actually focus and learn. So that's exactly what I put my mind to, and that's exactly the path I took. Marilyn Stewart was the broker at Edina Realty at the time, and Edina Realty is where I decided to start my career. And it was kind of intriguing, because she was very old school, but I love it, because that's the way I like to run things. Or is an old school mentality. And what is an old school mentality? Well, if you're going to play the part, be the part, but you also got to be yourself. Um, but Marilyn told me when I interviewed with her, she says, "You know what, Greg?" She says, "We're excited to have you, but I'm going to tell you a couple things that you're going to need to do, and I hope you do them." I'm like, "All right, well, what are those?" She says, "Well, go over to Goodwill, buy you a couple suits, and I'll see you next time on Monday after your classes and such, right? That you got to finish up. But I want you to wear a suit every day. I want you to do open houses. I want you to learn. I want you to go as much education." I'm like, "All right, cool, I can do that." Now, keep in mind, I was also still a painting contractor. I was still running crews. I was still doing new construction. I was still doing these other projects. Well, okay, so fast forward a little bit, got my feet going, got back to painting, so on and so forth. And so, literally at this time, as I'm doing business, I've got a bucket of water, a 5-gallon pail of water, rags, a suit, my briefcase, and and my computer and stuff, right? So if I got calls or if I was making calls on my breaks and on my lunch and stuff like that, and I had to go work with a client or whatever, I could wash the paint off and clean up and look good and all professional, get my suit on, right? And off I go. And that was my life for a long time. And I felt I did okay or decent. I was making money in real estate. I was making money in painting. And but as time kept going here, I'm burning the wick at each end, and it was starting to get to me. um, and so I was in real estate a couple of years, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to put my real estate license on hold for a minute and focus back on the painting. The business was doing okay, but it wasn't doing great. But I knew that I just needed to reallocate my time and figure out what that was. So that went on for a while. Well, in about 2000, so I want to say it was 2013 when I decided to put my license on hold. And it was about 2016 that I started realizing, 2015, 2016, that, this painting gig, I still love it, right? And even today, when I get into painting, it's like a whole nother world. It gives me a whole different feeling than a lot of things in life. Gratification is one. But as being a realtor for a while, and getting into that, it started opening up my eyes to other things in this industry. Not only, the real estate, but the building and the remodeling and the path of what it takes for one to go from renting or living at home to buying a house to buying houses and investments and all that. So, anyways, but at this time, I'm starting to realize that my body is starting to shut down, and it just it was taking over. I remember the day. It was 2000. 16. Well, I can't remember the exact date, but I can remember exactly everything that happened. I woke up one morning, I rolled over, and my beautiful wife was laying next to me. And I come to realize that we had been married for like 13, 14 years. And I'm realizing that my children were, you know, grown. One of them, was three of them were grown and out of the house, and two of them were on their way. One was in high school, one was in middle school. And I'm like, I remember our life, but I don't remember the quality of life. So I woke my wife up like I normally do to say good morning and I love you. And I says, honey, I says, just to let you know, I'm done. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I'm done painting. I'm going to close the business. And she laughed and she says, she says, I guess you've made comments like that before, but if you think that's where you want to go, go. What are you going to do? I says, well, I said, as of right now, where I'm at, I think I'm just going to take a break from work. And she's like, hmm, interesting. She's like, let's see if this happens. So sure enough, that day I decided to go in and I took the contracts that I had in hand, because as a contractor, you're always signing new contracts. You're always moving forward, right? You got to have a path for your crews to go to the people that you're working with. And I went into those contractors and I said, I'm closing my doors and I'll finish out the contracts that I'm on, but here you go. You're gonna have to find somebody to fulfill these other contracts because I can't do it anymore. And they were all graciously, or most of them were graciously understanding. Kind of it didn't put anybody in a real tight spot because they haven't even broken ground on these places yet. We still had two more buildings at the one site that we had that I took care of, and then we had on the other project, we were just about halfway through, and they didn't have any other sites that they had dug on. Well, no, they did because there we were moving over, but that was still another 4 or 5 months down the road. Um, so anyways, so they took the contracts back. I went back to my crews and informed them where I was going and what I was doing, and obviously. It was kind of a sad moment, but yes, it was also a relieving moment for me at that moment. So fast forward 3 or 4 months ahead of time or past that, and I did exactly what I told my wife I was going to do. I closed my doors. I parked my trailer, and I took 365 days, and I spent it with my family, and spent it on myself. We traveled, we hung out at the house, we did what we needed, and when it came to that 365, my wife and I once again sat down and decided, okay, well, let's have a discussion. What's this going to look like moving forward? And my wife, being the loving wife that she has always been, she looked at me. She says, "Well, what do you want to do? What makes you happy?" I says, "Well, I do know that real estate makes me happy." She says, "Okay, then do it." I said, "Okay, great." I says, "But I don't know that that's going to cover everything." So, okay, well, what else do you like? Well, in the process of being a contractor, a general con, or I mean, a painting contractor, I was doing cosmetic remodels like tile and flooring and paint and stuff when I was presented to it because it was fun. I says, I think I want to get my builder's license and I want to be able to do general contracting. Okay, well, then do it. So sure enough, there at the end of our vacation of a year, I went back and I got my real estate license reinstated, and then I went and got my builder's license. Actually, I got my builder's license first, and then I got my real estate license uh, re reinstated, and started doing handyman stuff and finishing bathrooms and kitchens and little remodel projects to, finishing full basements and, controlling my life. I also got back into real estate. That actually took a hit, or not a hit, but it kicked off like a bang. Um, so once again, I'm in control of everything. Now I'm in control of every minute of my day, and I started working on my number one goal, and my number one goal was balance. And I actually created the lifestyle that we were desiring. Now, is life easy every day? Heck no. But now I'm going to fast forward till today. I've been a general contractor ever since. I've been a real estate agent ever since. I have been graciously given the opportunity to be the managing team leader at Keller Williams Premier Realty, and that's where I'm at October 9th, 2025. Actually, I'm in my office now at Keller Williams, and like I said before on the last video, here we are. This is what I want to do. I want to introduce you to the world of real estate as a realtor, as a builder, as a entrepreneur, as an investor, and I want to introduce you to a lot of the individuals around Rochester, Minnesota, in the area. And moving forward, that's what we're going to do. So, if you're watching my videos, send me comments, send me emails, texts, whatever. Connect with me with your questions, with your comments, with your content that you'd like to see. And next on the agenda is bringing in one of my cohorts, and we're going to do some interviews. And I think we're going to start with probably another realtor or something. So, anyways, if you're watching, I want to say thank you, and I hope you get something out of this. But once again, I'm Greg Wildfeuer, and I'm a realtor in Rochester, Minnesota. We have a team with Tom Wilson that's called All in One Realty Group, and I also have about 140 agents right now in the Keller Williams Premier Realty Market Center that I do everything that I can to support and guide them into the right direction. And I'll tell you what, there's some rock stars in this office, so I can't wait to get them on the podcast, so you can kind of you probably already know some of them, but like I said, I'm also going to reach out. We're going to go off into the world of real estate. We're going to find the other realtors from other brokerages, lenders, title, builders. Heck, who knows? Maybe I'll bring a magician or a comedian in here. So, hey, once again, this is Greg Wildfear. Thanks for watching. We'll talk soon.